Today we're checking out this. This is the Idoru P1. It is a multi-track audio and MIDI backing track pedal, and it's probably the only one of its kind on the market. You can let me know in the comment section below if I'm wrong, but this thing is awesome, and I'm going to explain why. Most of you who use backing tracks have got a problem. Here on the channel we talk about looping, and we've actually done a video about using a loop pedal as a backing track machine, and that's fine. But there is an issue with that. The issue with that is it's just a stereo out. If you get to a venue and it's really boomy or the bass isn't cutting through, you can't really do anything other than basic EQ. But what this allows you to do is have 6 mono outputs plus headphones, plus control things from MIDI, all from an SD card. Ugh. That didn't come out how I wanted it to and look cool, but that's the SD card, and they supply that in the box as well. However, you can use their software to drop the audio in. It's really, really easy, and then you can just start playing your track. Now, you can adjust stuff on the fly with this, with the mixer that's built in, or you could output this to a mixer to control it yourself on the fly. Now, before we get going, Idoru sent me the P1 for review. They're not paying for this video. They're not sponsoring this video. They don't get to see the video beforehand, and of course, the thoughts on my own. But before we get cracking, the people who have sponsored this video is DistroKid. DistroKid is a music distribution company. So if you're making music, you're performing live, you want to get that music out there, including covers, then you can do that through DistroKid. If you want your music on Apple Music, Spotify, Pandora, Tidal, Deezer, iHeartRadio, all these different places, you can do this through DistroKid, and also they push it out to all the social media sites. So things like Meta, aka Facebook, Instagram, then you've also got Snapchat and even TikTok. People use music in their reels, and if they start using your music, guess what? You get paid. Now, most music distributors charge you every time you release some music, but DistroKid have always gone with a subscription model, which starts at $22.99. And with the link that's in the description box, it's also that QR code. We can save you 7% off your first annual membership with DistroKid. Now, they've got a couple of different tiers. I'm on the Musicians Plus tier. There's also an Ultimate tier as well if you want to start your own label. Now, there's loads of promo stuff, including hyperfollow page. There's promo cards. There's ways to split the payment for your band. So I'd just like to say a massive thank you to DistroKid for sponsoring this video and also the channel. Have a look at the link and start distributing your music today. Now, there's a lot to go through with this, so let's get into it. Okay, so we've got the pedal on the table. I want to show you the pedal first, and then I'm going to show you how you can get your audio into the pedal, and then we can start playing with it. Now, there's no on-off switch. If you have a look at it here, we've got USB-B, USB-A for controlling. We've got AUX, we've got headphones, and then we've got our 1 to 6. So we've got our outputs 1 to 6. So I'm just going to unplug it just to show you what this looks like. And then this side is the Idoru name, and then on this side we've got our MIDI in and out, and then this is where our SD card lives. And they supply this in the box actually, which is quite nice. Little micro SD, 32 gig. So it gives you enough to get going. So we plug that into there for now. It clicks in nicely. Then you've got really nice big long feet. As I plug this back in, you can see it boots up. It tells you which version of the software it's on. And then it comes to the first set list. When you buy this, it doesn't have a set list on it. So then it doesn't show you this screen to begin with, but we'll get into that in a minute. So we have a back button, a forward button, and a play button. So I've got always a home sitting there. If I press play, you'll see that goes green. These 3 buttons are the same as these 3 buttons. These are physical buttons, these are switches, so therefore I can pause it. You can see it stopped the timing there. If I hold that down, it'll go back to the beginning of the song. If I go next, we go to the next one, and these 2 are exactly the same. So if I go there and there, you can see I'm basically pressing those buttons. So these 3 pedals mirror these buttons. Nice little tip for you: when you press play, if you hold this down, what you can do is you can see here, you're actually fast forwarding, and then you can hold this down and it'll actually start rewinding. You don't hear the audio when it does that, thank goodness. It just rewinds or fast forwards to the place where you want to be. Whilst it's in play mode, if I actually give this a click, it then shows me what the next song is. And then when you get to the end of this, it will automatically play the next song. That's really clever. So we're going over to Whiskey Jar as the next song. It's showcasing that for you, but we're in Always at Home at the moment. And of course, I can stop that and it just stops. If you don't press that button and you just hit play, at the end of the song, the actual system just stops and it waits for you to get to the next song. It preloads the next song up, but it doesn't play it. So you could arm it and go from one song straight into another, or you can actually just go play and then just it preloads the next one because it's part of the set list. So I'm going to stop that for now and hold it down so it goes back to the beginning. You can see we're in Whiskey Jar right now, 2 of 2, and if I go back, we're in 1 of 2. A couple of things while it's playing. You can see I've got 144 BPM. I've put that in the software, and of course it says play. If I press stop, it's paused. It's not actually stopped, and then if I press play, it carries on again. We're in the last minute of the song now, so what we're going to do is I'm going to move this over just to showcase what happens. So now we're coming towards the end of the file under the song, and then you can see it's counting down, which I quite like. It counts down as opposed to counting up, and then it shows you how much is left. 4, 3, 2, 1. It's finished, and now we're going into Whiskey Jar. So if I now press play, we're now playing Whiskey Jar. It's going into the next part of the set automatically, which is really, really cool, and then we can just start playing that song. Now the 2 dials at the top here, we've got a white one and a blue one. They're also clickable. So this one, if you give it a click, we go into the mixer for the 6 different outputs. So whilst it's in this mode, if I use the dial now, you can see the bits at the bottom here. It'll go through the different ones, and then if I select that, I can then adjust that accordingly. You can see this one is stereo paired. I'll show you how to do that later. And then we can go over to, say, this one. We can adjust it here, and this is just adjusting the output volume. And then the top right-hand corner, when you go to that track, it's telling you what that value is. So if I give that a click, we can then put that back up to, say, 100 if you want to, or 95, whatever you prefer. If you make any changes to the volumes, it then asks you, do you want to save those changes on the pedal itself? And then of course you can go yes or no. I'm going to go no for now, and we'll click that. We'll go back to the beginning. And then this white one, if I give it a click, this is where you can browse your set list, and then you've got the settings of the pedal itself. So we've got things like screen contrast, brightness, if you want a metronome flash, and this is really useful. So let's turn that on. And now as we play this, you can see this is flashing through the metronome. Just a really great indication just to keep you in time. Another great use of it is if you want to play, maybe you want to do an extra long thing or a breakdown at a certain point in the song, you've got the metronome going there. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It keeps you in time so you can get back in time with your backing track. In the edit song option, you've got a couple of different things. So we can go into this, we can adjust the level. We can also, at the end of the song, tell it what to do. So we can either go loop it, play the next one automatically, or cue next. Cue next is the default. Browsing the set list, you can load a list. And there's my JP's list there, list loaded. And if you've got multiple set lists in this, depending on obviously the size of the SD card, how much you've got stored in there, it means you could store hundreds, if not thousands of songs. Maybe you've got a playlist that's like 2 45-minute sets. Maybe you've got a playlist that's 3 45-minute sets. Maybe you've got a 2-hour playlist. Maybe you've got a wedding playlist. Maybe you've got a Sunday afternoon playlist. So you could have all these different playlists and then just load them up accordingly. The power supply needed for this is 12 volts DC, 1 amp, 1000 milliamps. But the plug they supply is actually a really nice plug. It's really small, and then also it's one of those ones where the plug bit just comes off, and they supply a couple of different ones from around the world in the box. Okay, so we've gone around to the actual device now and a little bit of inside it. Let me show you how to get stuff into this in the first place using their software. Now you'll need a USB to whatever you need for your computer. So I've got a USB to USB-C connector, which is by Ugreen. I've left the link in the description box. And then when you plug this in, or when you turn this on for the very first time, you'll see this message, which is device is in USB mass storage mode. Now to move stuff over, you need the SD card in, and when you plug that in, of course, that will come up as an SD card on your computer. Now you're not going to see anything change on the pedal itself because everything I'm about to show you is all on the software. This is the Idoru software that you download from their website. You can see create new session, open session, and import sessions from P1. You don't need to actually plug the pedal in at this point. You can create all your sessions on the software and then plug it in at the last moment and then transfer the stuff over. I'm going to create a new session, and as we create a new session, you can see there's nothing there. You can see the P1's connected, and that's great. It doesn't have to be though. And then also you can go create set list. So we'll create set list, give it a click, and we're going to rename this JP's Amazing Set List. And then it just says create song underneath. So we'll do that. And then we're going to give this song a name. That's the one I actually imported before. And then I'm going to leave it there because what I would suggest you do on this is if you're plugging this into your system and you're using those outputs, you'll probably want the outputs to be the same across the different songs. So for example, output 1 is the drums, output 2 is the bass, output 3 is the synthesizer, output 4 is harmonies, things like that. So what I would suggest you do is actually use the first song as a template. So you can see here right next door to the whiskey jar name, you can see there's a little mixer. We'll go into that here. And this is where we bring everything in. Now I'll build this first, then I'll duplicate it, and then you can just throw the audio in. It's quite easy. I'm assuming as well that you already have the audio split up, so I'm not here to teach you how to actually make backing tracks, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how all this works. Now there's 2 letters on each thing, so you can see here we've got headphones, so we can actually send stuff to the headphones. We've got channel 1, channel 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and you can stereo each one. So maybe you've got a stereo that you want, or maybe you've got some panning you want to happen, and that's fine. Obviously, if you're using a mono PA system, that won't matter. So for each one, what I'm going to do is the following. This one, which is called F1, I'm going to give that a name, so I'm going to go DR, and that's going to be my drums. The next one is F2. I'm going to make that the bass, BS for the bass. Then we're going to go KY for keys, GT for guitar, so I know it's a guitar, and then let's go VO for voice, number 6, and that can be, we'll just call that one effects, okay, just because we can. Then you've got the OGs as well. You'll notice I'm on track 1. So track 1, the output of number 1 is sending all these out. So I'm going to de-tick all these now, and I only want the drums coming out of track 1. Then on track 2, I want the bass. So we can see that's going to be the bass. Track 3, I want that to be the keys. Then track 4, the guitar. You can see the way these are lighting up now, right? So track 5 is voice, and then track 6 is this effects thing we've got going on. And as you can see, as I click on each one, you've got this channel name, and it just says add WAV file, and that's fine. We'll do that in a minute. I just want to show you around a little bit, because what you can do as well is you've got your outputs, and that's fine. You've got an overall level adjust. We can set the levels of each one, and then you've also got the song WAV mix, the WAVs, and then you can also do one or two things. Like, for example, you can say, well, at the end of the song, cue the next one. What's the BPM? And if you need to add a MIDI file, you can do that here. I'm not going to do that for this example. But what I'm now going to do is I've got a folder which is Whiskey Jar backing tracks, and I'm going to bring this over so you can see them here. And I'm just going to open this up. And then I've got literally bass, drums, synth guitars, and vocals. I actually only did 4. And then what you must be aware of is if I click on all of these, I'm on channel 1. All of them are going to come out channel 1. Then you've got channel 2. I've only got the bass one now clicked in, and that's fine. So for this one on channel 1, I'm going to click on the one that says DR, and it says add wave file. So I just need to find the file, and I've got the file sitting on my desktop. Please ignore my desktop. It's very, very messy. And there is Whiskey Jar, and then there is Whiskey Jar drums, and I'll just add that in. The WAV file must be 44.1 kilohertz at 16-bit. So if you add that in, that's it. It's done. It's added in there. And then on track number 2, I'm going to add in the bass. And then track 3, I've got keys and guitar, so it's a kind of a mixture. So what we can do with this synth and guitar, we can add that on there. And what I'm going to do on this one, you can see I've added that on track number 2. I'm going to turn that off, and then I'm going to bring it in on track number 3. I'm going to make this stereo with 3 and 4. So therefore now you can see I don't need to add a WAV file to that. There's no need to, because 3 and 4 are together, and we've got keys and guitar in a stereo pan. Then I've got the vocal one on track number 5. So let's add that one in. Vocals, add audio, done. Now, I've made a mistake here, genuinely, and I actually want to keep this in the edit and show you this, because you need to make sure which channel you're on. So I've added this to 3 and 4 by mistake. So I'm just going to turn that off, go to track 5, and there it is. That's fine. So just be really careful, because this is the only downside for the software. It's a little bit weird when you add stuff in. You get a bit sort of obsessed with adding things in, and you go, oh, actually, I've added it in on the wrong output. So have a look at it from the WAVs, the song WAV mix, then you've got the levels, and then you've got the outputs. So I actually haven't got anything for effects on this one, and that's fine. Now, what I can do is I can actually just come out of here and click done, And that is the song. You can see it's 4 minutes and 51 seconds. I can go back in. Let's add in the BPM. So the BPM on this one is 144 beats per minute. And then we can click done. And then you just duplicate that. So now what I can do is I can say duplicate song. We can go back in, and then what we can do is we can just replace the WAV file with whatever it's going to be for the next one. So I'm going to call this one Boss Castle because I've got the mix already right, so I'm happy with that. Then I just need to go in and change the WAV file. So I've got the drums, the bass, the guitar, the keyboards, backing vocals, anything like that, and add it in. Change the BPM, click done, and then let's just assume I've got those two, and you just carry on. Now, if you had a file of a different format, then it comes up saying invalid file. WAV files must be 16-bit 44.1 kilohertz. So when you're exporting your sounds out as backing tracks, make sure you're exporting it in that format. Now, once you're finished with this set list, you can save it, and that'll save it basically to your computer as an Idoru file. And then what we'd be doing is sending that session over to the P1. When you click this and send it over, what you're looking for is the SD card. You don't have to pick anything, you just pick the SD card because it's plugged into the computer and click send session. What you'll now see is you'll see this, and it'll actually start sending all the files. Now this can take a bit of time, and it's pretty quick, but it can take a bit of time, obviously, if you're sending 50, 60 different files all over to the pedal, over to that SD card. But you can see it's running through it right now, and it's sending that information. The alternative you can do is you can import a session from the P1. So if you've got stuff on the SD card, you can import it here to edit it and play with it on the software. So now we've actually got the stuff on here. Let's plug it in. Let's have a play. So what we've got here is the Idoru P1, and then I've got this multi-core cable that I've plugged in to my mixer. This is the Mackie Pro FX 12 V3, and it's just a normal mixer, and it's got some effects, and that's fine. So what I've done, as you can see, I've got red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and this is actually an 8 snake chain, and it's got loads of different connections. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug these in the same way. So red is going to be number 1, orange is going to be number 2, yellow is going to be number 3, etc., etc. So let me just do this now, and we'll plug this in. So they're actually plugged in the same way. As I say, they've got 2 extra. We're not using them at all. And then let me plug this into power. Okay, so I set this up so they're close together. Now, one of the advantages of plugging all this into a mixer is I can adjust the EQ if I wanted to. Again, imagine you walk into a place, it's really boomy. You want to obviously adjust the bass just down a little bit, or you want to adjust and add effects. Maybe you've pulled the information in completely dry, so it doesn't have any effects on it, and you want to add the effects from your mixer. You can do that here. Now, I've spun this forward a little bit on Hallways at Home, just so you can hear a little bit of it. And then we've got the drums on track 1, we've got the bass on track 2, we've got acoustic guitars on track 3, electric guitars on track 4, vocals on track 5, and then on track 6 is actually a rap. But for this example, we're not going to play that right now. I'm just going to play a little bit, obviously, so you can hear this. So let's go. So right now, if I mute everything, there's the drums. And then let's bring the bass in. Now the great thing is I can start playing around with this, maybe in the setup, and then let's bring you can hear we're going into the chorus. Bring the electric guitars in. And then let's bring the choir in. And I can make adjustments accordingly. It works really, really well. So what do I think of this? Well, this is a computer in a pedal. It's really, really cool. It's got a couple of quirks and 1 or 2 things you can't do with it. The first one is actually just going through your set list and picking a song. You have to pick the set list, load that set list up, and then you can go through the songs. It'd be much nicer to then just go, do you know what, let's swap it round. Now, you can do that, but it will take a minute or 2 to go pick a new song, and you've got to know which set list it's in. The other thing is the WAVs. Now, it's 16-bit 44.1 kilohertz. Some people have MP3s, some people have it in 24-bit or 32-bit. I'd like to see this be able to take different formats, but also different qualities of format as well. So if I've got an MP3 and I'm just going to throw it in as a stereo, and I don't want to have it as backing, split all into bits, then maybe I'd use number 5 and number 6 as a stereo out, and that's fine. The other thing as well is with the software, which is a little bit of a pet peeve for me, but I understand why they've done it. If you're going to be using this with 6 outs, it's more highly likely you're going to be pumping those 6 outs to a mixer, and then you're going to be labeling that up as track 1 is the bass, track 2 is the drums, whatever it is. The thing is, if you change the outputs on the software, it changes it for every song. So if you put it in as track 1 and 2 is stereo for, say, the drums, it's going to be like that for every song. So when you go into the software, I'd like to see a change. I'd like to actually set up the set list and have the set list set up in a specific way. And then you just drop the WAVs into all the different songs, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it just sorts it out. That to me would make more sense that the set list is like that. What I do like is you can actually, when playing, I can go to the next song. I can see the next song on its going up, and it can auto play that as well, or it can stop, and that's really, really cool. If I hold this down, it then goes back to the beginning of the song. Actually, when you press this, it pauses. It doesn't just go stop, because that's really cool, because you might want to, add a breakdown, things like that. The other option as well is you can loop with this. Technically, there is an option where if you put that track in, it can be looped and not played up basically like a one-shot, which is the default. That'd be really interesting to play around with this with a looped option. I don't know how that would work as a looper. The other thing as well is MIDI-wise, you can send a MIDI file to it. So you can tell it to change the BPM or control an external device. Maybe as you get to the chorus, it automatically controls your delay pedal by MIDI. That's really, really cool. The other thing you can do is you can control it by MIDI. So if you've got a Morningstar or if you've got a MIDI pedal, then you can expand the functionality of this by plugging it into here and doing that. If they were going to make another version of this, like a version 2, like a P2, what I'd like to see is a couple of things. The first one is controversial because people might not like this, but it is onboard faders. I'd like to actually see something here so I can just very quickly go and move it really, really quick without having to go into the menu and do this. Although this isn't bad, it's one of those things where it's just nice to have physical faders, but it would probably make the pedal a lot bigger. The other thing I'd like to see is USB-C, not USB-B. We need to move away from all that now. It's got to be USB-C. It's as simple as that. I'd like to also see TRS MIDI as well as 5-pin DIN or instead of 5-pin DIN. That's just my personal preference. It's much smaller when it comes to the cabling, and of course I could use things like the WIDI jack for Bluetooth or build Bluetooth into it so we can connect to things wirelessly like an FS1WL pedal, or it could connect to an iPad, so I could adjust it all there. Now, the other thing that would be a caveat is actually building an app for this. Now, I've thought about this for a little while. Should it have an app, like a companion app on your phone? So maybe you could draw with the mixer, and you could have the mixer on your phone, like so you don't have to bend down and use that. But then the question is, well, then why don't you just use your phone as a backing track device? The whole point of that is actually to use it without a computer, without a tablet and everything else, and I get that. But we do carry around multiple devices, and if you've got your phone with you, I think it would be nice to be able to maybe change the set list on there, or also be able to control the mixer. I think that would be an advantage, and if it had Bluetooth built in, you could just connect to it by Bluetooth. It's a conversation to have that conversation in the comment section underneath. Let me know, let Idoru know as well, because I'm sure they'll be watching this video and we're looking for the comments. If you've got suggestions of how this could be improved, let them know in the comment section below. All that being said, for those who want backing tracks, whether you're using that with your band or you're a solo artist and you want to play backing tracks, this is fantastic because you can plug this into a mixer and control it really, really well. I want to thank Idoru for sending this out to me. There's links in the description box if you want to go and pick one of these up. It's available on their website and Thomann at the moment. Of course, if they sell elsewhere, I'll add that into the links as well. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. It's a really cool first product by them, and I think it solves a lot of issues with bringing a laptop on stage. Then you've got to use an audio interface with that laptop to plug in your IEMs just so you can hear the click track. This solves that issue really, really well. I do like also the fact it's got a separate headphone output as well as the 6 outputs, so you're not wasting one of those 6 outputs as your headphones. Now, if you found the content of this video useful, then please give it a thumbs up. It helps the channel grow, helps send out to the algorithm gods, that you like it and maybe other people like it as well. If you're finding that you like quite a few of my videos, then the other option you can do is join the membership. Think of it like Patreon, but just on YouTube. There's a couple of different tiers and you're directly helping me on my YouTube journey and supporting the channel. Thank you very much to those who already have. Next door to the subscribe button, there's a little join button. That is the membership. Have a look at it there. Now, if you're looking for a multi-track audio and MIDI backing track pedal, it's this, and this is fantastic for its price and amazing what it can do. However, if you want to use your existing looper as a backing track machine, that's this video right here, and that's the video we talked about right at the beginning of this video. Is that Inception? Maybe.